This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Money Matters. I'm Chris Hensley. Have a great show lined up for you today. Another episode of Money Matters, the podcast where financial wellness meets everyday life. Today, we're exploring the intersection of aging, genetics, and physical fitness with a very special guest, Tony Tripp Parks. Tony, is it okay to call you Tripp?
Yeah, I prefer it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, welcome to the show today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to share a little bit about you with guests or with listeners so that they can get to know you just a little bit better here. Um, Now, you are the author of a book called Health Profiling. You co-own a Sin Performance Training Center, and you also have your own podcast called Health or High Water.
Yeah. We're trying to do a little bit of everything.
Fantastic. Well, and we'll get into a little bit of each of those there. I just wanted to say thanks for being on the show. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself outside of the things that I just mentioned so that the listeners can get to know you just a little bit better?
Yeah, sure, 100%. So I've been a fitness nut my whole life. Music, taking care of family. I played in a small professional football league for a little while. It gave me a ton of experience. I've had a few other businesses that weren't as successful as the one I'm with right now. So a lot of entrepreneurship there, working in family business as well. Uh, just trying to. My whole life's it's based off kind of growth, right? How can I be a better person, and spiritually, mentally, physically, all those kind of things. So that's a little bit about who I am.
I love it. I love it. Well, you're on the right show. We are growth oriented here. So that is perfect. So let's start. Let's dive right into it. Can you share your journey into specializing in fitness for individuals and how it led to the podcast?
100%. So I started this fitness journey when I was 12 years old. My brother's 18 years older than me. We had not a lot in common. So he dragged my butt to the gym, and I fell in love with it. Um, about 15 years old, I started writing workout programs for my friends and family. I just got way more into it, started getting into the supplement side, all of that. And then going to college at Radford University, my brother started a supplement company my sophomore year of college, and I started working for him. Once I graduated there with a degree in communications, I started working for him physically in Raleigh, North Carolina. We were doing supplementation, genetic testing, well, kind of on the brink of doing genetic testing and some other quantitative science there. And I decided to break off and do my own thing with a protein bar and go all in with this genetic testing, personal training, do supplements, whatnot. And then that led me to start going to professional football tryouts, where the second one I went to, I got drafted by the rival professional football league, and I played safety, I played gunner, and I played slot receiver on some special packages. That really got me understanding of what whole wellness was, like making sure you take care of body, make sure you're mentally strong. It was a amazing learning experience. And then I went back to work for my brother. We kind of butted heads a little bit, being family, and moved out to Denver. COVID hit. I didn't know what I was going to do, so I decided to double back down on fitness, which was my true passion and my true love. I got certified in personal training, started building up my clientele book out here, and then in 2022, my mom had a stroke. Um, I ended up leaving Denver and going back to North Carolina, where my parents live in currently right now, and was taking care of her through incontinence, through speech therapy, uh, a whole bunch of taking her doctor's appointments, all of that. And I didn't have a lot of time to do anything, and I knew my dad's concrete job wasn't going to cut the bills once she does start to get worse, and it turned into dementia, so it's going to get worse. So I started writing. I was like, listen, I got some time when she's taking naps, or I can get some things done. So I got certified in genetic-based program design. I started writing my book that's now health profiling, and I just fully immersed myself into what can I do to provide for my family and make an impact on community. So I applied everywhere from the Czech Republic to California, and then the one place that chose me back was Denver. So I already had some friends out here, already had some connections, and now my now business partner Brett, we were in the same corporate wellness for a while, and realized that there wasn't an answer to an all around 360 fitness approach. And we started diving into like how can we do this, and we realized that the nucleus and the idea was genetics. It's like, hey, we can talk about your optimization for your diet, supplementation, what kind of workouts you need to do, what does your sleep look like, cancer prevention, immune system, cardiovascular risk. And that's when Health Profiling, the book, was finally done. It's like, all right, this is my nucleus for the book. we're going to start talking about health profiling, or a true 360-degree approach to health. And we're not going to just take things out. Like, you go to a personal trainer, they're going to write you a workout program. You go to a nutritionist, yada, yada, but no one's actually putting it together. So that was how the comprehensive wellness profile was born. Our thing here, or our claim to fame here, is our comprehensive wellness profile, which is a 30-page document that's genetically optimizes your entire life. So that's, I know it's a little long-winded, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. That's good. No, so that's a great answer. In fact, every time so we are a finance show, but every time I do a health and wellness show, I always feel like I have to like preempt it and make this correlation between health and financial wellness, but I'm not having to do it as much now. I think people see a lot of the overlap there, right? I know for my retiree clients, as we age, these problems just get more complex, right? And so one of the things you mentioned when earlier was the genetic part of it. Tell us, for people who are just they're hearing the health and the fitness part of it, but they're not really sure about what the genetic stuff even is. Can you kind of give us a layperson's definition, or kind of explain that to us?
Sure. So genetic testing can be used in several different factors and variations, whether that's prescribing the right medication for you, finding out how you need to work out, how you need to rest, recover, injury prevention, cancer risk. It's a saliva test that we do, and it gives us all this information about predispositions. Now, that's not telling us exactly what's going on immediately, but this is a likelihood that things are going to happen down the road. And then when you add things like epigenetics or your environmental factors to these tests, we're able to see exactly what's going on, right? So this is a blueprint or a roadmap by you for you, right?
I love it. I love it. I'm oversharing here, but tomorrow I'm going to get a colonoscopy. So
Oh
not good
no.
news, right? But I'm 49, so I'm right there at the cusp. But what I read was that this is one of the tests that when you have these diagnostics done, you can actually do something with it if you find out early on. So that was like, well, I think I'll go ahead and do that. Some of the things you just mentioned right now, cancer, injury prevention, genetics, things that are kind of a blueprint there. As we age, from your experience, what are some of the common misconceptions about physical fitness as we age?
Well, the one thing is that it's too late to start now, right? That's one thing I hear all the time. It's like, well, I'm 65, I'm 70. It's just too late for me, and that's just not the case, right? You can make specific impacts immediately on your overall health and wellness. Like, let's say you're on a statin for your heart, right? If we get you working out moderately, 20, 30 minutes a day, we start eating the right things, we start recovering, we start sleeping better, then those things are gonna change, right? Our body's gonna start working better. And that's the same thing what happened with my mom is they had her on 12 different kind of medications for what's going on. And I was like, she's not gonna be on this. We're not gonna do this. So you start implementing things like a better diet, better workout regime, and staying consistent you can't reverse aging, but you can definitely slow it down and increase your quality of life.
So that's a good answer as well. I'm hearing it's never too late to get started. Something's better than nothing, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioning your mom being on 12 different things and then coming in and managing that and saying, okay, wait a second, like backing up and look at it. um, let's talk about, you had mentioned the genetic process of aging. Can you explain how genetics play a significant role in how we age and how our understanding of it has evolved over time?
Of course, of course. So with that, what we have to also talk about our epigenetics, our environmental factors. Like, are we in a place that's full of smoke all the time? Are we drinking a lot? We have all these other factors we got to take in considering how we've treated our body throughout our whole life. The harder we treat our body through our whole life, the more predispositions or negative indicators are going to pop up, creating more problems down the road, right? So talking about finance here, talking about how health can affect that is, I'm going to tell you it's a lot cheaper to have a gym membership and eating right than having a $50,000 medical bill down the road for a stroke or cancer or what have you, right? So it directly correlates to, hey, my health is wealth. So if we're treating our body right now, it doesn't matter if you're 65 or 14 years old, if we start treating our body right now, we're going to have less problems down the road, or less likely to have these problems down the road if we're taking care of ourselves.
I love that. I mean, that is you started with how have we treated our body, and I think generally, people become conscious of it as they start reaching middle age and these things
Right.
start coming online, right? So it's usually some life triggering event that will point them, oh, okay, I better start doing better. Um, but that all comes into play when you guys sit down and you do a blueprint and you work with people as far as where to point them. What are some actionable steps individuals can take to use their genetics to their advantage for living longer and healthier lives?
The first things first is taking your genetic test and being able to apply it, and that's what we do here. That's what it's we get your genetic test back. We don't stop there. We do blood work as well as a biomechanical assessment so we can see what's going inside. Like, hey, if you've got a low likelihood to metabolize vitamin D, then we're gonna look at your genetic, or we're gonna look at your blood work as well. Be like, all right, well, if you're already taking a vitamin D supplement and it's not optimal on your blood work, then we know that predeposition is live, right? So now we got to ask the questions. All right, so how should this person be getting their vitamin D? Let's say this person's got a high propensity for melanoma and sunspots. It's like, well, that person should not be getting it from the sun, right? So we're going to up your vitamin D rich foods and possibly up your supplement regimen based off of you. So again, it's super individualized per person of how we use these, and that could even go in as depth as how I need to work out. There's people that have a certain fat burning variant RS126789 that's missing, and what this fat burning variant is saying is that a person without this fat burning variant could do cardio for 7 hours versus someone who does have it versus an hour and still not burn the same fat. So if cardio is not a good option for this person for burning fat, for goal orientated, let's say they want to, burn fat and get lean muscle, then we need to kind of trick the body into how we need to work out. And an example is like, all right, so this person's cardiovascular, this person's missing this fat burning variant. So what I would do as a genetic based program designer is like, all right, I'm going to up your rep ranges. We're going to do more plyometric and circuit based training to make sure that we're mimicking the idea of cardio. So you're getting the cardiovascular aspect while burning fat the way your body burns it. Right. So it's really just honing in on what's best for our bodies and ourselves.
I love this approach because, a lot of things are done on an average, right? When people
Right.
do a fitness program, they're looking at the average person, but in reality, there's really not, there's not an average person, right? If you look at everybody individually, we all have these differences, and what you're talking about is something that's best based on genetic testing. You do blood work, you talk about these biomechanics, and it really comes down to some of these things that might be exceptions to the rule, right? You talked about the fat burning variant, where you can dial in and really customize and make an individual per person, right? That sounds very strong because everybody's going to be a little bit different. And people might beat up on themselves if they're trying to do
Right.
things at this other standard, and just not getting it, right?
Well, yeah, it's like,
Um,
well, this workout's working for me. Why is it not? This workout's working for my partner here. It's not working out for me. Why? And a really great example is back in World War II. All the fighter planes were made for the average American, right? But no one fit in the planes, right? Because there was no average American. If you take the averages from everybody, it turns out to be a really funky looking person, right? Long arms, short torso, this and that. So that's the kind of approach we're looking for. It's like we're not trying to make this for make one side or make a plan that's going to fit everybody. We want to make sure that we're customizing this cockpit, making sure that it fits for them. They can fly optimally, right? So that's that kind of that mentality. It's like everyone's beautifully unique, and our program should be as such.
I love that. I love that. Now I'm going to pivot a little bit and I'm going to
Yeah.
talk about an even older range of adults, people who are in, like assisted living care facilities and that sort of thing. How do fitness programs, how do you adjust those for those unique needs and challenges faced for that age group?
Well, it's a lot of it's going to be taking into account their medical history, right? And especially their needs too. Do they have high cholesterol? Do they have low vitamin deficiency? So again, it's going by that what's going on individually and what's their goals, right? So when we're talking about that, we're going to be a lot more careful with range of motions for movements, for workouts. We're going to be especially careful with nutrition and supplementation because as you get older, your body's not going to be able to handle stuff as well, right? So taking all those things into consideration and creating a custom platform for this person to succeed, because just like us, like just like anyone from 0 to 65, they shouldn't be having the same workout programs, and people that are older as well, need to be individualized as well. And I think that's a huge problem going on with especially the senior sector silver sneakers is that they're just throwing something that expect everybody to stick, and it's not. I mean, this is probably the most that statins have ever been used, that we're having the most cardiovascular risk and diseases in our elderly, and we have to take an individualized approach to accomplish those goals about getting them healthy.
I love that. I love that. And that is, so I work with retirees, so people 55 and up. But then when they're on the other side and they're retired, these things come online. And you mentioned earlier that the cost of these healthcare issues as they arise can be very, very expensive. And so, anything that they can do for prevention is huge. You talked about silver sneakers. You talked about, more statins than we've ever used through before, right? And then this cardiovascular, and then, even with your mother's issues with dementia, this is something we're seeing a lot with that baby boomer age group, the cognitive disabilities. And so the stuff that you're doing is really, really important. Can
Thank
you
you.
share some of the success stories or significant transformations that you've witnessed through your fitness programs?
Yeah, 100%. Actually, one of my first clients moving back here when I left corporate wellness, Leslie, she's one of my great friends. We had our genetic consult with her. We went through a genetic test, and she had a genetic predisposition to be obese, and she had been struggling with weight her entire life. Right. So, again, I don't blame her going in like, hey, like, is this going to work? Is this going to, do this and that? And then our first month, she lost about, what was it, 11 pounds, gained 3.5 pounds in muscle. And I mean, a total body composition change within the first month of applying what we're doing. And she was telling me, she's like, everyone my entire life told me that I just need to do this and that to get healthy. And no one told me that I was different. And not in a bad way,
Right.
I'm different than everybody else. I've got to work out different. I've got to be more attentive at what I'm doing because I do have a predisposition to be overweight. Right. So I think a lot of people do use excuses like that, like, oh, I'm just predisposed to be overweight. But once you have the information, you know how to deal with it. Right. So she's taken an amazing transformation. She's still working with me right now. She's now wearing clothes that she hasn't been wearing in 2 or 3 years. And and again,
Nice.
it's just not the, thank you. It's not the fact that we're just working out. It's not the fact we're just eating better. It's the fact that we're taking a full wellness approach. Like, I ask you, how's your sleep going? Let's get your blood work done for your hormone levels. What's your stress like going on, right? If you have a high stress, your cortisol's through the roof, and then you can't focus, you can't sleep. So we look at this again as this 360 approach, and she's really just taken it. I can't work out for her. She's taken it, just gone to the moon with it. So I'm just so proud of her and her continued success.
I love it. I love it. Some of the things you mentioned there, of course, everybody focuses on the weight loss, but you also mentioned the gain from muscle mass, which is huge. Strength training is huge as we age, being able to, the more strength training you do, the more forgiving it is on your body later on down the road, right? So this is a great thing. You talked about excuses. Some people will just use excuses, and it's hard to do that when you guys dial in and you tell them, like, this is individual about you versus this other standard, right? And even as much as focusing in on their sleep and making sure that all of these other things are getting checked along the way. Um, with the financial constraints that some older adults face, especially post retirement, how do you suggest that they prioritize their health and fitness?
Well, it depends on how much money they want to have if they get sick, right? And I'm just going to be very, very blunt about that too, is because of my mom, right? I don't want people to go through what I had to go through by any means. When your parents retire, they should be enjoying retirement. They should be out doing what they want to do, and they should not be having to deal with, my dad shouldn't have to be taking care of my mom right now. So if you're questioning about prioritizing your health and the expenses of it, trust me, it's way more expensive if you don't in the long run, right? Because it's not if something's going to happen to you, it's when, because we all die, from something, and I'd rather die of natural causes and leave my family with whatever nut I made instead of having to use that nut on keeping me alive or whatnot. So it's really about a choice of responsibility for ourselves. Is Listen, I know I've got my first responsibility is taking care of myself, because if I can't take care of myself, I can't be there for my family, right? And no matter what age, and you want to see your grandkids, great grandkids, what have you, and you're not going to be able to do that if you're not prioritizing your health and wellness first, which I understand is a little bit of money up front, but what's the alternative, right?
No, I love that. And the big thing of taking care of yourself first, it's how do you're not going to be able to provide for everybody that you love or that you want to take care of if you are sick, right? So taking care of
Right.
yourself first is huge. One of the things you mentioned was even your father having to take care of your mother. I find that even the people that tell me, I'm a successful CEO, I don't ever want to retire, right? You may have that mindset, or you may be like, I'm going to work till the day that I die. But
Right.
often you'll find that people's spouses will become sick, and then they'll take off time from work to help take care of them. And guess what? They never go back to work, and that's where their retirement starts. So this is huge. What you're talking about, this is very important. Um, how
Thank
does
you.
financial wellness we kind of talked on this already, but how does financial wellness intersect with physical wellness, especially as we age?
Well, let's go ahead and break down. Let's say we're in a financial hardship time, right? And I was talking about this before. You're stressed out. You're not sleeping. Cortisol levels go up, and this is a really great example for this. Is like it's going to affect the rest of your life. If you're stressed out about whether getting to the gym or stressed out about your finances, it's going to directly affect your physical health, right? I mean, these mental applications can affect us physically, right? So if I'm stressing about money from the time I go to sleep, the time I wake up, it's going to have an effect on us too, right? So prioritizing that is huge. So there's a direct correlation with monetary and physical well-being, and I think that there should be a balance between the two, right? Like, hey, like I can have a cheeseburger right now this for a cheat meal here, and I can spend a little bit of money on this, but you have to have ultimately a balance of both to make life work. It's all about moderation.
I love it. Moderation, balance. Balance is a good thing anywhere, right? That,
Yeah.
that's that's definitely a good thing. Well, let's pivot a little bit
Yeah.
because you also have a podcast, and I love talking about my podcast. Don't get me started talking about my podcast. It's like talking about my baby, right? So let's talk about your podcast. You host this podcast. Can you share some of the topics or episodes that's resonated well with your audience and the impact that you hope to create through your podcast?
So we do a lot of introductory stuff too, right? Like we're not trying to confuse our audience. We really mimic this podcast off of Fireside Chats by FDR and talking to the listener, right? Not at the listener. We want them to be a part of the conversation and want them to get something out of it. So one of the ones that was really amazing for us was actually Intro to Posture. And I did not think that was going to turn out great because it's an audio podcast, but it's been one of our successful podcasts yet. Um,
Nice.
but it's something that people don't talk about. Like, how do I fix my posture? What are things I can do to improve that? How can I help with this? Me sitting on the computer the whole time. What is my neck supposed to feel like? That was one of our best ones, especially with the older demographic of people. Is they don't want to be hunched over the whole time. They get an osteoporosis and rheumatoid arthritis and all this other kind of things. Like, well, what can we do structurally to benefit that? And then we also have like doctors come on, like Dr. Doinger, who's a naturopath. He was an amazing guest. Intro to nutrition, like what is nutrition? So we try to take it at a very base level, but provide information on like, hey, this is exactly like for nutrition, for example. We talked about how we grew up with the food pyramid and how it's upside down by the time I graduated, right? So we're trying to you know uh, help with the information out there as well as you know try to help with getting rid of that disinformation that what really wasn't working for us. It's almost like a re-education process, right?
I love it. I love it. These are great topics. I'm going to go back and listen to the show. A lot of the things you just mentioned kind of check the box for me there. But
Thank
the
you.
introduction to posture, this weekend we were at an event for my son's school, and my wife came up to me, put her arms on my shoulders, and she said, "Stand up, you're slumping." And I feel like I've been working on my posture, but you get into these patterns, right? So and it is very frustrating when people say, hey, work on your posture and you just don't know what to do. But I'm sure on your episode of that show, you guys got into some practical tips of things that people can do for posture. So I'm going to have to revisit that.
Well, 100%. I mean, some easy for your listeners to do too is like, let's say you're sitting in your car. A lot of us spend a ton of the time in the car. So what I do is I set my rear view mirror to a place I have to be when I'm posturally correct, right? So that way you
Ah,
can't mess up, right? So it's like, all right, well, I can't see. I'm not in a good. Oh, I got to sit up to go see,
right.
right? So doing that
Oh,
thing.
I love that.
And another thing too is like every time you see a mirror or like you're in an elevator where you can see yourself, check your posture. Do a self check, right? Am I standing up straight? And I was doing this morning too at the gas station. Is they have those little things on the side of the door that show your height. Every time you see one of
Yes.
those, try to get tall. So there's like
I
little things
love
we
it.
can do to check out through our day to work on our posture, and that doesn't take any time out of our day at all.
I love it. Okay, so when I go out to the car later, I'm going to adjust my mirror there, so
There
so
you
that it's
go.
going to force me to sit up straight. That's a good. I love that. I love that. We're getting close to the end of the show here, kind of bumping towards the end of the half hour
Yeah.
here. Looking ahead, what are some of the emerging trends or research in the field of aging and fitness that you're excited about, and how do you plan to incorporate these into your work?
Oh man, there's so much going on right now. But one of the things I'm really excited about, and we just started offering here about 2 or 3 weeks ago, is pharmacogenomics, which is the study and the application of figuring out what genetics work best for your medications. So imagine all the times that people have gotten medications and they have terrible side effects from it, or it doesn't sit right with them and the dosage isn't right. What we can do is we can get a genetic test done and figure out exactly what medications you need to be on and whatnot. So that's going to really affect, especially this older demographic that is on a ton of medications that may have some side effects here or there that's not working out for them, and give them a practical approach to that, as well as make them feel better too. If you're on the right medication, you're not gonna feel as bad. So we're really trying to change the game with that. And then secondly, what we'd like to do with this company is turn it into something called the Preventive Health Center, right? A place that is a full wellness, almost mall. You go there, you get your biomechanical assessment from a personal trainer, you get a genetic test done by your geneticist, you get your blood work done by a phlebotomist who's going to be seen by us, but by a blood specialist. We're going to get your family history in and do a one-stop shop for health and wellness. We love to repurpose an old school or hospital and make use of that. They already got kitchens, gymnasiums, like that kind of stuff in it. So we really want to take that to the next level, as well as start working with insurance companies to help reduce the cost up front to the our clients and our customer base, as well as help reduce cost for insurance companies on, hey, is this person healthy? Is this person not? What should these premiums be? And try to make a fair market for people.
I love it. That's an arm wrestle for that we've continually been having, right, with the insurance
Right.
company. The argument that preventative stuff ultimately on the back end will cost them much less. A little bit here goes a long way, compound interest, if you will, for the body, right, down the
Right.
road. You talked about the Prevention Health Center. That is a great idea, kind of a one-stop shop to be able to knock out all of these different things that we need to do towards our health. And then I made a note, but I just stopped. You said a word right at the beginning. It was pharmacom, and then I just kind of trailed off there because I'm going to ask you to repeat it so that I can understand.
For sure. It's pharmacogenomics.
Nice, nice. And what I understood is that helped people with all of the different medications that they're taking on an individual scale. You could look at their genetic markers and see if maybe they're predisposed for some of these interactions that they shouldn't be having
Right.
with the prescriptions. And this is a huge worry when people take prescription drugs. And as we age, it becomes one, two, three, and then you've got a handful of 10 or 12 that you're taking, right? So this is a great idea, great thing for us to have. I had never even heard of that before you mentioned it, so now it's on the radar. So that's good. Well, Tripp, we are right here at the end of the show. Let me ask you, what have I forgot to ask you that you'd like to share with our listeners today?
Uh, well, one big thing for me, like leading off here, is personal accountability and responsibility. Right. That's one thing that unfortunately throughout our the past 20, 30 years, we've lost a lot of community and ethical standpoints of taking care of ourselves and taking care of our family, and it's up to us for this next generation to do a better job at that, right? And that starts with personal accountability and acceptability in ourselves. Like we said before, taking care of ourselves to make sure we can take care of everybody else later is so big. I think a lot of us just ignore our health and wellness issues, or future health and wellness issues, by treating our bodies bad right now. So I challenge everybody listening to start taking, even a small accountability. Like, hey, I'm going to start drinking more water instead of soda. I'm going to go to the gym for 20 minutes this week. challenge them to go out and start this wellness journey, because again, it's not if something's going to happen to you, it's when. So you might as well be prepared now.
I love it. What a great thought to leave with today. The finger pointing right back at us, right? Look in the mirror, personal accountability, personal responsibility. We have to own these positive things that we need to do for our health. Tripp, thank you so much for being on the show today. For listeners who'd like to find out more about you, where would they go?
So my book Health Profiling is on Kindle digitally and Amazon for hard copy. You can find us at ascendperformancetraining.com for some blogs and a little bit more about what we do with some videos on there. We have a physical location here in Denver at 1472 Jersey Street, Denver, Colorado, if you guys want to come by and visit us. And then you can also find Health or High Water podcast on anywhere podcasts are shown. We got about 50 episodes out right now, so there's quite a bit of content that we want to get out there. And yeah, I think that's about it.
I love it. Tripp, thank you so much for being on the show today. Have a good rest of the day there.
Thank you so much.